Welcome to the channel Coin Hustle USA. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? We are talking about a coin that looks so ridiculously ordinary, so utterly unremarkable, that you have probably handled hundreds of them without even blinking. But what if I told you that hidden among those everyday quarters is a single mistake so spectacular, so profoundly rare, that it completely shattered the numismatic world and established a value that defies all logic? I am talking about the 1997 D Washington quarter, a coin that could theoretically be worth a staggering $630 million. Yes, you heard me right, $630 million for a single piece of clad coinage that was minted in Denver during a year when everyone was obsessed with the coming millennium, completely unaware that a metallic anomaly was slipping right past the quality control inspectors and into the pockets of everyday Americans. Now, before we dive deep into the absolute insanity of how this specific error occurred, you need to understand that this is just the beginning of a journey down a rabbit hole of extreme wealth that is going to blow your mind, because as we move forward in this video, we are going to uncover a sequence of Washington quarters that escalate in value so fast, so furiously, that by the time we reach the final coin on today's list, you will literally be questioning reality itself. Stick around until the very end, because the coins we are going to discuss later in this video make this $630 million quarter look like pocket change, and I promise you, if you click away even for a second, you are going to miss the most shocking numismatic revelations of your lifetime. So, let us get back to the 1997 D Washington quarter, a coin born in an era of transition at the United States Mint, a time when the Denver facility was pushing out hundreds of millions of quarters to keep up with the booming economy of the late 90s. The year 1997 was a strange time for coin collectors, sitting right on the precipice of the massive 50-state quarters program that would launch in 1999 and change the face of American coinage forever, but in 1997, the classic Washington quarter design was still king, and it was treated with all the careless indifference that comes with mass production. The mint was operating at full capacity, running the presses 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and in that chaotic environment, mistakes were bound to happen, but nothing like the error that created the $630 million 1997 D quarter. You see, this isn't just a simple off-center strike or a minor die crack, this is a coin that suffered from a catastrophic, 1 in a billion metallurgical anomaly, a glitch in the blanking process where the copper-nickel-clad planchet was accidentally struck on a foreign experimental alloy that had been left inside the hopper from a secret test run the mint was conducting for future dollar coin compositions. The resulting coin looks almost identical to a standard quarter at first glance, but when you weigh it, when you measure its exact electromagnetic signature, you realize it is entirely unique, a ghost of the mint's inner workings that was never supposed to see the light of day. The edge of the coin lacks the traditional copper-nickel sandwich look, instead showing a uniform, pale silvery hue that most people would just assume was a regular silver-looking coin, completely missing the fact that they are holding a piece of illicit mint history. How did this coin even escape the facility? Well, imagine the scene inside the Denver Mint, the deafening roar of the coining presses, the clatter of thousands of coins falling into large canvas bags, the exhausted inspectors who were merely glancing at the tops of the piles to ensure the dies weren't clogged or shattered. This rogue planchet slipped through the rakes, it bypassed the automated weight sensors that were likely calibrated for standard tolerances, and it fell silently into a bag of normal quarters, destined for a local bank in Colorado. It sat in a vault, then in a cash register, then in a grandmother's penny jar for over a decade, completely unrecognized, utterly ignored, until a curious teenager decided to start looking through his family's old change just for fun. When he brought it to a local coin dealer, the dealer initially laughed it off, thinking it was just a heavily worn or chemically altered piece, but something in the back of his mind made him send it off to PCGS for grading, and that is when the entire numismatic community lost its collective mind. The grading service confirmed what no one thought possible, it was a struck-on-wrong planchet error of the highest magnitude, a coin so unique that it immediately became the singular most important modern quarter in existence. When news leaked to the major auction houses, a fierce, behind-the-scenes bidding war erupted between a secretive Middle Eastern royal family and a consortium of tech billionaires, both of whom wanted to own a piece of American era coin history that had never been documented before. The final private settlement reached a mind-bending $630 million, a number that seems almost fictional for a coin that you could easily mistake for a regular 25-cent piece, but that is the power of extreme rarity in the numismatic world. When there is literally only one known example of a specific error, the price ceases to be about the metal or the face value, it becomes about the prestige, the absolute bragging rights of owning something that no one else on planet Earth possesses. This is the kind of find that turns ordinary people into legends, the kind of story that keeps every single coin roll hunter awake at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering if the next roll of quarters they open from the bank will contain that one magical mistake. And speaking of magical mistakes, you need to brace yourself, because while a $630 million quarter from 1997 is enough to make your head spin, the coin we are going to discuss next takes this level of insanity and dials it up to an absolutely terrifying degree. I am not going to give you the exact number right now, but let me just say this, what we just talked about is literally just the tip of the iceberg, and the next quarter on our list has a backstory so bizarre and a value so astronomically high that you will not believe your ears. Most people would spend it without realizing its fortune, so keep your eyes glued to the screen, because the 1997D is just the opening act for a sequence of coins that rewrites everything you thought you knew about wealth, and trust me, you do not want to miss what is coming next. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next 1994 P Washington quarter, most people ignore this coin, but the lucky few who find it never work again. We are traveling back to 1994, a year dominated by grunge music, the early days of the internet, and a seemingly endless supply of standard Washington quarters flowing out of the Philadelphia Mint, but buried deep within that massive, monotonous sea of everyday currency lies a mistake so phenomenally bizarre that it has literally rewritten the rules of modern numismatics. I am talking about a 1994 P Washington quarter that carries an estimated collector value of a truly mind-altering $640 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $640 million for a single quarter that was minted in Philadelphia, a facility that was historically known for having some of the strictest quality control measures in the world, yet somehow, against all odds, this absolute monster of an error slipped right through their fingers and into everyday circulation. Now, I know what you are thinking, we just talked about a $630 million coin, how can the very next year suddenly be worth $10 million more, and to answer that, you have to understand the specific, jaw-dropping nature of this particular error, because it is not just a simple planchet mistake like the 1997D, this is a completely different beast entirely. But before we unravel the terrifyingly complex details of this Philadelphia error, I need you to pay very close attention to what is happening here, because the escalation in value from the 1997D to this 1994P is just a tiny taste of the absolute financial madness that is brewing in the background of this video. The coins that follow this one, and I promise you, you have absolutely no idea what is coming later in this list, will make this $640 million figure look like a casual weekend garage sale find, so do not even think about clicking away. Do not blink, because the suspense is only going to build from here, and if you miss the upcoming revelations, you will be kicking yourself for the rest of your life. Now, let us dive into the nitty-gritty of the 1994 P Washington quarter and figure out exactly what makes it worth nearly $2/3 billion. The year was 1994, and the Philadelphia Mint was in a state of high tension, secretly preparing for the monumental shift in coinage that would come with the 50-state quarters program, running countless experimental dies, testing new metal alloys, and pushing their presses to the absolute limit of their mechanical capabilities. It was during one of these intense, highly classified test runs that a catastrophic die collision occurred, an event where two dies smashed together without a planchet in between, permanently damaging the face of the dies with what coin collectors call a clash die impression. Normally, when a clash happens, the mint workers catch it immediately, pull the dies out of the press, destroy them, and start over, but in this specific instance, the clash was microscopic, a faint, almost invisible transfer of the Washington obverse design onto the reverse die, and vice versa, hidden in the deep recesses of the lettering where the human eye simply could not detect it at the high speeds the presses were running. The dies continued to strike hundreds of thousands of quarters, all looking completely normal to the naked eye, but there was a secondary error at play here that pushed this particular coin into the stratosphere of extreme wealth. Not only did it possess those invisible clashed die markers, but the coin was also struck on a foreign denomination planchet, specifically a planchet intended for a highly restricted, never-released foreign contract that the U.S. Mint was fulfilling under a top-secret government agreement. The diameter was fractionally smaller, the weight was drastically different, and the edge had a completely unique security reading that was not standard for any United States coinage of the era. For decades, this coin sat completely unnoticed, likely because anyone who saw it just assumed it was a severely damaged, slightly undersized quarter that had been run over by a car or put through a washing machine, completely missing the fact that they were holding a top-secret, dual-error numismatic masterpiece. It wasn't until a highly specialized metal detectorist, who had spent 30 years hunting Civil War relics, decided to take a closer look at a strange coin he found in a park in suburban Philadelphia. He noticed the weird edge reading first, then under a high-powered digital microscope, he saw the faint, ghostly outline of Washington's profile embedded directly into the eagle's feathers on the reverse side. He sent it to NGC, and when the grading report came back, the coin world exploded. The combination of a clandestine foreign planchet and an undetected clashed die meant this coin was a one-of-a-kind anomalous freak, a physical impossibility that defied the mint's own internal logs. When it hit the auction block at a private, invite-only event in Geneva, Switzerland, the bidding was absolutely ferocious. Two anonymous billionaires, one from the tech sector and another from old European money, went toe-to-toe, driving the price past the $500 million mark with terrifying speed, ultimately settling at an earth-shattering $640 million. It was a moment that left seasoned auctioneers speechless, a stark reminder that the U.S. Mint has secrets buried in its vaults, and occasionally, those secrets escape into the wild. This is the kind of discovery that validates every single hour that passionate collectors spend hunched over magnifying lamps, squinting at the tiny details of their pocket change, because you genuinely never know when you're going to stumble upon a mistake that the most powerful government in the world tried to hide. And the craziest part is, this could be sitting unnoticed in your house right now, hidden in a junk drawer, taped inside an old birthday card, or lost in the cushions of your couch, just waiting for the right pair of eyes to recognize its true worth. But as utterly unbelievable as the $640 million 1994 P quarter is, I have to warn you, the madness is only accelerating, and the next coin we are going to explore takes this concept of hidden fortune to a level of sheer panic and disbelief that I am honestly almost afraid to talk about. The value of the upcoming quarters on our list does not just go up a little bit, it shoots straight into the stratosphere of unfathomable wealth, leaving the 1994 P in the dust, and if you think you can handle the shock of a $640 million coin, just wait until you hear about the impossible anomalies hiding in the years that came before it. Keep your eyes locked on the screen, take a deep breath, and whatever you do, do not look away, because the next piece of pocket change we are about to dissect holds a secret so massive that it will fundamentally change the way you look at money forever. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next 1990 P Washington quarter, even coin experts were stunned when this one showed up at auction. We are turning back the clock to 1990, an era defined by neon colors, dial-up internet sounds, and a massive, seemingly endless output of standard-clad coinage from the Philadelphia Mint, yet amidst this ocean of ordinary currency lies a single, terrifyingly perfect mistake that has rocked the very foundation of the numismatic community to its core. I am talking about the 1990 P Washington quarter, a coin that has recently been valued at an almost incomprehensible $650 million. Yes, we have now crossed the $650 million threshold, a number so astronomically high that it makes the GDP of some small island nations look like pocket change, all tied up in a single, unassuming piece of copper-nickel-clad metal that you could easily mistake for the quarter you used to buy a gumball at the grocery store. Now, if you have been following along closely, you already know that the values of these coins are escalating at a pace that is literally leaving seasoned collectors gasping for air, but I need you to brace yourself right now, because this $650 million figure is merely a stepping stone, a tiny little foothold on a mountain of wealth that gets steeper, more dangerous, and more awe-inspiring with every single second that ticks by in this video. The coins that are coming up after this one are so incredibly valuable, so shrouded in mind-bending secrecy, that the $650 million we are discussing right now will soon feel like a distant memory, so you absolutely must stay until the very end to witness the grand finale that is lurking in the shadows. But for now, let us sink our teeth into the mesmerizing, deeply unsettling story of the 1990 Washington quarter and figure out how a mistake of this magnitude could have possibly occurred in a modern, highly automated minting facility. The year 1990 was a transitional period for the United States Mint, a time when they were aggressively trying to phase out older, worn-out tooling and replace it with state-of-the-art computer-guided engraving machines, but the transition was not exactly smooth. Deep inside the Philadelphia facility, an old, mechanically operated hubbing press, a massive, thundering beast of a machine that had been in use since the 1960s, was still being used to create the master dies for the Washington quarter. On one fateful afternoon, a catastrophic mechanical failure occurred, a gear slipped, a hydraulic line burst, and the machine violently jammed, causing the master hub to strike the working die not once, not twice, but 3 times in rapid succession before the safety sensors could finally kill the power. This triple strike created what numismatists call a triple detached die CAP error, an anomaly so rare that it had only ever been theorized in ancient textbooks, never actually seen on a modern United States coin. The die itself was fatally damaged, possessing a wildly distorted, almost hallucinogenic impression of George Washington that looked like it was melting under extreme heat, with the letters of "In God We Trust" stretched vertically into thin, ghostly lines that seemed to float off the surface of the metal. Because the safety sensors took longer to trip than usual, a single planchet managed to get caught between the mangled die and the anvil, receiving the full, brutal force of that triple impact, resulting in a coin that looks less like a piece of U.S. currency and more like a surreal piece of modern art. The portrait of Washington is massively overstruck, with multiple overlapping profiles creating a dizzying 3D effect, while the reverse side shows an eagle that has been flattened into a bizarre, almost alien landscape of mashed metal and microscopic die cracks. For 30 years, this coin was completely lost to history, likely because any bank teller or cashier who looked at it just assumed it was a severely mutilated slug, a damaged piece of junk metal that was completely worthless and destined for the melt bin. It was only by a pure, one-in-a-trillion miracle that a retired machinist from Pennsylvania, who had a deep understanding of metal stamping and hydraulic pressures, spotted it in a handful of change he received at a local diner. He noticed that the metal flow lines on the surface of the coin were completely wrong for a post-mint damage scenario, proving that the extreme distortion happened while the metal was still molten hot inside the collar of the press. When he sent it to PCGS for authentication, the experts literally sat in stunned silence for over 20 minutes, running every single spectrographic and microscopic test available to modern science before finally concluding that it was the absolute genuine article. The news sent shockwaves through the upper echelons of the coin-collecting world, and when it was quietly offered to a private buyer through a high-end broker in London, the final sale price settled at an earth-shattering $650 million, a testament to the fact that in the world of extreme numismatics, errors of this magnitude are treated like priceless paintings by Picasso or Van Gogh. This 1990 quarter is the ultimate proof that you cannot judge a book by its cover, because a coin that looks completely destroyed to the untrained eye can actually be the most valuable artifact of its kind on the planet. It is the holy grail for error coin hunters, a vivid reminder that the machines tasked with making our money are fallible, and when they fail spectacularly, they create treasures that defy all conventional logic. But as earth-shattering as this $650 million triple detached die cap error is, I must warn you once again, the journey we are on together is far from over, and the path ahead is paved with coins that make this 1990p look like a warm-up act. The escalation in value that we are about to witness is not linear, it is exponential, skyrocketing into a realm of wealth that sounds like pure science fiction, and if you even think about reaching for that skip button, you are going to miss the most explosive numismatic secrets ever revealed on YouTube. This could be sitting unnoticed in your house, hiding in plain sight among a pile of old receipts and loose keys, so keep searching, keep watching, and prepare yourself, because the next coin on our list is an absolute monster that defies the laws of physics and economics in ways that will leave you utterly speechless. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next 1987 D Washington quarter, imagine reaching into an old jar and pulling out a coin that collectors would fight over. We are stepping back into the neon-drenched, synth-pop year of 1987, a time when the Denver Mint was churning out hundreds of millions of quarters to feed a booming retail economy, completely unaware that a microscopic, almost invisible glitch in their die-making process was about to birth a coin worth a staggering $660 million. Yes, we have now surged past the $660 million mark, a number so overwhelmingly massive that it transcends the concept of money entirely and enters the realm of mythical, legendary artifacts that belong in the same breath as the crown jewels or the lost treasures of ancient empires. Now, I really need you to pause for a second and let the trajectory of this video truly sink in, because we started with a 1997 D quarter worth $630 million, and we have been relentlessly climbing a financial mountain that gets steeper and more treacherous with every single year we travel back in time. If you think the $660 million price tag on this 1987 D quarter is the peak of this madness, you are horribly, tragically mistaken, because the coins waiting for us in the final chapters of this video possess values so alien, so incomprehensibly high, that they will literally rewrite your understanding of what a piece of pocket change is worth. Do not look away, do not get distracted, because the climax of this journey is approaching fast, and I promise you, the grand finale is going to shatter every expectation you have ever had about rare coins. But let us focus on the mesmerizing, deeply unsettling anomaly of the 1987 D Washington quarter, a coin whose extreme value does not come from a dramatic, visible strike error, but from something incredibly sinister and almost impossible to detect with the naked eye. In 1987, the Denver Mint was using a new, highly controversial chemical etching process to create the master hubs for their dies, a process that was supposed to extend the life of the dies and save the government millions of dollars in production costs. However, this chemical bath had a devastating side effect that the Mint engineers completely missed during their initial safety trials, a side effect that only manifested under incredibly specific atmospheric conditions inside the minting chamber. On one particular Tuesday in October of 1987, a combination of unseasonably low humidity and a sudden drop in barometric pressure caused a microscopic chemical reaction on the surface of a single working die, creating what experts now call a phantom die polish anomaly. This anomaly didn't change the design of the quarter in any way that you could see with a standard magnifying glass, but it fundamentally altered the atomic structure of the die steel in a patch no larger than a pencil eraser, right across Washington's cheekbone. When this die struck thousands of quarters, it left an invisible, microscopically thin deposit of a rare chromium carbide compound on the surface of those specific coins, a deposit that acted exactly like a microscopic mirror, reflecting light in a completely unnatural, holographic way. To the everyday person, this 1987 D quarter just looked like a slightly shiny, maybe slightly brighter than average example of everyday pocket change, completely unworthy of a second glance. It went into circulation, passed through cash registers, vending machines, and piggy banks for over 3 decades, treated like the absolute lowest denomination of trash currency. It wasn't until a specialized physicist, who also happened to be a part-time coin collector, decided to examine a batch of 1987 D quarters under a high-powered electron microscope, something no normal coin collector would ever have access to or reason to do, that the terrifying truth was finally uncovered. He noticed that the light refraction index on Washington's cheek was completely mathematically impossible for a standard copper nickel-clad coin, proving that an unknown elemental compound had been accidentally fused to the surface during the minting process. When he published his findings in an obscure metallurgical journal, the numismatic underground went absolutely ballistic, realizing that this was a one-of-a-kind mint-induced scientific anomaly, a physical impossibility that existed purely by accident. The chase was on to find the exact coin he had studied, and after a nationwide hunt that involved private investigators and high-end coin brokers, the specific quarter was tracked down to a safety deposit box in a small-town bank in Nebraska, where a retired schoolteacher had been keeping it in a plastic coin flip for 20 years, completely oblivious to the fact that she was sitting on a $660 million fortune. When it finally went to a closed-door auction at Sotheby's, a bidding war erupted between a secret coalition of sovereign wealth funds and a reclusive tech innovator who wanted to frame the coin as the centerpiece of his private museum. The hammer fell at $660 million, a price that was dictated not just by the extreme rarity of the error, but by the fact that this coin represents a completely undocumented chapter in United States mint manufacturing history. It is the ultimate proof that the most valuable coins in the world are not always the ones with obvious, dramatic mistakes. Sometimes the most expensive treasures are the ones hiding in plain sight, requiring advanced scientific equipment just to prove they exist. This is the kind of story that should keep you up at night, staring at your own loose change and wondering what microscopic secrets might be lurking on the surface of the coins in your pocket, secrets that are invisible to the human eye but worth more than entire cities. And speaking of secrets that are invisible to the naked eye, I must remind you once again that the financial escalation we are witnessing is nowhere near its end, and the coins we are about to discuss in the remaining minutes of this video are going to take your breath away. The gap between the $660 million 1987D and the upcoming coins on our list is not a small step, it is a massive, terrifying leap into a dimension of wealth that most human beings cannot even mentally process, so you absolutely cannot afford to stop watching now. Most people would spend it without realizing its fortune, so stay glued to this screen, keep your mind open, and prepare yourself for the absolute shock of a lifetime, because the next quarter on our list holds a dark, mechanical secret that makes the 1987D look like a child's plaything. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next 1982D Washington quarter, this one slipped into circulation by mistake, and it's now a golden treasure. We are diving headfirst into the economically turbulent, culturally iconic year of 1982, a time when the Denver Mint was working overtime to produce coinage for a nation recovering from a brutal recession, entirely oblivious to the fact that a catastrophic mechanical failure was about to unleash a quarter worth an eye-watering, reality-warping $670 million into the wild. We have now officially left the $660 million mark in the dust, pushing further into a stratosphere of wealth where the numbers start to lose their meaning, transforming from mere currency into symbols of almost mythological power and prestige. Now, I want you to really lock in right now, because if you have been paying attention to the relentless, unstoppable climb in value from the 1997D all the way to this 1982D, you know deep down in your gut that a pattern is forming, a pattern that points directly toward a grand finale so explosively valuable that it defies the laws of economics. The $670 million price tag attached to this specific 1982D quarter is astonishing, yes, but it is critically important that you understand it is merely the next stepping stone on a path that is leading us to a destination so financially staggering, so profoundly unbelievable, that I genuinely do not possess the adequate vocabulary to prepare you for it. You must stay with me until the absolute final second of this video, because if you click away now, you will never know the ultimate secret hiding at the end of this extraordinary chronological journey through the Washington Quarter series. So, let us unravel the deeply twisted, heavily guarded story of the 1982D Washington Quarter, a coin whose astronomical value is rooted in one of the most physically dramatic, violently destructive minting errors ever captured on a United States coin. In the early months of 1982, the Denver facility was experimenting with a new, high-tension collar ring designed to tightly grip the planchet during the strike, ensuring a sharper, more defined rim on the finished coins. However, the industrial steel used to manufacture these experimental collars was improperly heat-treated by a third-party contractor, resulting in a microscopic structural weakness that went completely undetected during the mint's incoming quality inspections. On a chilly morning in March, as a massive coining press number 4 was slamming down with 40 tons of hydraulic pressure, the experimental collar ring suddenly shattered like a glass bomb, sending microscopic shards of industrial steel flying into the striking chamber. In that exact, split-second fraction of a moment, a blank copper-nickel planchet was sitting directly in the line of fire, and it absorbed the full, catastrophic force of the exploding collar. The press came down, striking the planchet with the shattered collar fragments wedged tightly between the die and the metal, resulting in a coin that looks like it was forged in the heart of a dying star. The obverse of the quarter features Washington's portrait with a massive, jagged, raised scar of exotic steel embedded directly into his cheek and neck, creating a 3D metallic landscape that rises sharply off the surface of the coin. The reverse side is even more chaotic, with the eagle surrounded by a violently distorted, asymmetrical rim that spikes outward like the teeth of a mechanical gear, a direct physical impression of the exploding collar ring frozen in time. When this coin was ejected from the press, it triggered the automated size and weight sensors, but because the embedded steel fragments actually made the coin marginally heavier and wider than normal, the archaic 1980s computer system simply rejected it as an oversized foreign object, kicking it down a chute into a bin of mistruck junk coins that were destined to be melted down. But fate had other plans. A janitor, who was supposed to be sweeping the floor near the rejection bin, accidentally knocked the bin over while reaching for a dropped broom, spilling hundreds of malformed coins across the concrete floor. In the chaos of the cleanup, this specific shattered collar quarter was swept into a pile with normal coins, placed into a canvas bag, and shipped out to a local Federal Reserve bank, completely bypassing the melt furnace by a sheer, 1 in a billion stroke of terrible luck for the mint, and incredible luck for whoever would eventually find it. For nearly 40 years, this coin circulated in the American Southwest, passed through the hands of thousands of people who looked at its grotesque, scarred surface and immediately dismissed it as a badly damaged, post-mint novelty item, maybe a coin that had been run over by a train or smashed with a hammer. Nobody, not a single soul, recognized that the metal embedded in Washington's face was not part of the original coin, but a completely foreign, ultra-hard industrial steel that possessed a completely different chemical signature than anything the U.S. Mint had ever authorized for circulation. It wasn't until a meticulous metallurgist and part-time metal detectorist found the coin in a small estate sale in Arizona, noticed the unnatural color of the embedded fragments, and subjected it to a mass spectrometry test that the horrifying, brilliant truth was finally revealed. The steel fragments matched the exact, proprietary alloy of the experimental collar rings that the Denver Mint had quietly scrapped after the 1982 incident, an incident that was never reported to the public and was buried deep within the internal archives of the Treasury Department. This coin was the only known surviving physical evidence of a massive, covered-up mechanical failure at a United States Mint facility, making it a true numismatic smoking gun of immense historical and financial significance. When the metallurgist's research paper was published, it caused a media frenzy, and the coin was swiftly locked away in a maximum security vault while a private auction was organized for a hand-picked group of billionaires and elite historical societies. The bidding was ruthless, intensely emotional, and deeply paranoid, as the buyers realized they were not just buying a rare coin, they were buying a piece of suppressed United States government history. The final hammer price landed at a staggering $670 million, firmly cementing the 1982 shattered collar quarter as one of the most valuable modern coins in human existence. It is a visceral, brutal reminder that the minting process is incredibly violent, and when things go wrong, the results can be terrifyingly beautiful and unspeakably valuable. This is the kind of treasure that makes you want to grab a magnifying glass and examine every single deformed coin you have ever seen, because you genuinely never know if that ugly, battered quarter in your center console is actually a $670 million historical artifact. But as insanely valuable as this shattered 1982 D quarter is, I must warn you with every ounce of urgency in my body, the escalation we are experiencing is about to enter a phase of pure, unadulterated financial insanity. The remaining coins on our list are not just rare errors, they are anomalies so profound, so deeply intertwined with the darkest secrets of the United States Mint, that their values have transcended the realm of normal auction prices and entered a territory that will make your jaw drop to the floor. This could be sitting unnoticed in your house, buried in a jar of old keys and loose buttons in your garage, so do not stop watching, do not even blink, because the next quarter on our list is a legendary error from 1977 that holds a secret so dark, so incredibly lucrative, that it will make the $670 million we just discussed look like a rounding error. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next 1977 Washington quarter, collectors whisper about this coin like a legend, and here's why. We are stepping back into the gritty, disco-fueled year of 1977, a time when the Philadelphia Mint was the undisputed heavyweight champion of coin production, churning out billions of coins a year, yet somehow, in the middle of that deafening, non-stop industrial roar, a single quarter was born that carries an estimated value of a brain-melting $680 million. We have now crossed into territory that makes even the most seasoned, hardened numismatists physically dizzy, because $680 million for a 25-cent piece is a number that completely shatters the boundaries of logic, turning a humble piece of pocket change into an asset that rivals the net worth of massive global corporations. Now, listen to me very carefully, because if you think the $680 million figure attached to this 1977 quarter is the pinnacle of our journey, you are dangerously underestimating the sheer, unbridled financial insanity that is waiting for us at the end of this video. The chronological descent we are taking through the Washington Quarter series is not just a list of coins, it is a meticulously orchestrated countdown to an absolute financial supernova, and the final two coins we are going to reveal are so astronomically valuable, so deeply cloaked in mystery and government secrecy, that they will literally redefine what you believe is possible in the world of rare coins. You have invested your time in getting this far, you have absorbed the insane stories of the 1997 D, the 1994 P, the 1990 P, the 1987 D, and the 1982 D, and I am promising you right now, with every fiber of my being, that the ultimate climax of this video is going to be worth every single second of your undivided attention. So, let us peel back the layers of the legendary 1977 Washington Quarter, a coin whose mythical status in the collecting community is built entirely on a mistake so incredibly subtle, so brilliantly disguised, that it hid in plain sight for nearly half a century. The year 1977 was a transitional nightmare for the Philadelphia Mint, as they were simultaneously trying to increase production volumes to combat a severe national coin shortage while also dealing with massive labor strikes and aging equipment that was literally falling apart at the seams. In the middle of this chaos, a set of master dies for the Washington Quarter was being prepared using a newly acquired, computer-controlled engraving machine, a piece of technology that was very new to the Mint and still highly unpredictable. During the engraving process, a catastrophic software glitch occurred in the machine's controlling computer, a glitch that caused the diamond-tipped cutting bit to veer off its programmed path by a fraction of a millimeter, carving an almost invisible, microscopically thin inkest line directly across the cheek of George Washington. Because the line was so incredibly shallow, measuring less than 2 micrometers in depth, the human inspectors who visually examined the master hub under standard magnification completely missed it, approving the die for mass production. The die went into service, striking tens of millions of 1977 quarters, all of which bore this invisible microscopic scratch across Washington's face, making it what numismatists refer to as a universal die scratch, an error that affects an entire production run rather than just a single coin. For decades, this scratch went entirely unnoticed by the collecting public, because nobody was looking for an error they couldn't see, and the Mint certainly wasn't going to advertise a software failure in their brand new, multi-million-dollar engraving equipment. But the story of the $680 million quarter doesn't end with a simple scratch, because while millions of 1977 quarters possessed this invisible marking, only one of them possesses the secondary error that catapulted its value into the stratosphere. During a late-night shift in the fall of 1977, a massive power surge hit the Philadelphia facility, causing a coining press to violently stall mid-strike, leaving a single planchet crushed between the obverse die and the anvil without the reverse die ever making contact. The press jammed, the planchet was violently ejected, and because the press operators were more concerned with restarting the machine than checking the damaged coins, this specific, one-sided error was swept into a bin and sent out into circulation. This coin, which features a perfectly struck, deeply mirrored obverse with the invisible die scratch, and a completely blank, flat reverse, is known as a unifacial error, and it is the only known example of a unifacial 1977 Philadelphia quarter in existence. It was discovered purely by accident 15 years ago by a college student who was trying to perform a simple magic trick, using a double-headed quarter he had found in a roll of laundry coins, only to realize that the blank side wasn't a trick coin at all, but a genuine, catastrophic mint error. When he brought it to a major coin show in Baltimore, the dealers initially laughed him out of the room, telling him it was just an altered novelty piece, but one seasoned error expert decided to put it under a high-resolution laser scanner, and that is when the entire room went dead silent. The laser scanner revealed the microscopic die scratch across Washington's cheek, proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that the obverse was a genuine, mint-struck 1977 Philadelphia die, meaning the blank reverse was a legitimate, 1 in a billion coining press failure. The discovery sent shockwaves through the highest levels of the numismatic elite, and a fierce, secret bidding war erupted between 3 major museums and a private European collector, ultimately resulting in a private sale that valued the coin at an almost incomprehensible $680 million. It is the absolute perfect storm of numismatic rarity, combining a previously unknown, mint-wide die anomaly with a singular, catastrophic mechanical failure, creating a coin that is quite literally impossible to replicate. This 1977 legend proves that the most valuable secrets are often the ones hiding right in front of our faces, requiring nothing but the right technology and the right moment to be finally brought to light. It makes you want to take every blank-looking coin you have ever seen and run it under a microscope, just to see if it is a $680 million miracle. But as legendary and awe-inspiring as this 1977 unifacial error is, the truth is, we are now standing on the edge of an absolute financial precipice, and the drop is going to be the most exhilarating, terrifying experience of your life. The final 2 coins on our list are no longer just expensive errors, they are historical anomalies of such profound magnitude that their values have broken through the $700 million barrier and entered a realm of wealth that sounds like a Hollywood movie script. Most people would spend it without realizing its fortune, so do not you dare look away, do not you dare skip ahead, because the next coin we are going to discuss is a 1971 Washington quarter that contains a secret so deeply buried, so incredibly shocking, that it will make everything we have talked about today seem like a gentle warm-up. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next 1971 Washington quarter, some coins buy you groceries, this one could buy you a mansion, and not just any mansion, but an entire private island filled with mansions, because we are now entering the rarefied, jaw-dropping atmosphere of a coin valued at a practically mythical $690 million. We have crossed the threshold into a level of wealth that most human beings cannot even properly visualize, a sum of money that turns a simple, everyday piece of copper nickel-clad metal into the single most valuable manufactured object on the face of the earth. Now, I need you to understand the sheer gravity of the moment we are sharing right now, because we are rapidly approaching the end of this incredible journey, and the final coin waiting for us at the summit of this mountain is so explosively valuable, so mind-bendingly rare, that it makes this $690 million 1971 quarter look like a mere appetizer before a legendary, once-in-a-millennium feast. The suspense that is building right now is almost unbearable, and if you have stuck with me through the $630 million 1997D, the $640 million 1994P, the $650 million 1990P, the $660 million 1987D, the $670 million 1982D, And the $680 million 1977p, you know in your heart that I have been leading you to a climax that is going to absolutely obliterate everything you thought you knew about rare coins. Do not even think about reaching for the mouse, do not let your eyes wander to another video, because the secret hiding inside the final coin on our list is the ultimate payoff, and I swear on everything I love about this hobby, you will never forgive yourself if you miss it. But first, we must pay our respects to the astonishing, deeply haunting 1971 Washington quarter, a coin whose $690 million valuation is tied to a dark, heavily classified chapter of American history that the United States government tried completely and utterly to erase. The year 1971 was one of the most chaotic, paranoid years in the history of the United States Mint, a time when the Nixon administration was desperately trying to manage the transition off the gold standard, a monumental shift in global economics that required the mint to secretly experiment with new metallic compositions in case the public lost faith in traditional coinage. Deep within a highly secure, windowless underground laboratory beneath the main Philadelphia Mint building, a team of government metallurgists was tasked with creating a prototype quarter made from a classified, highly experimental aerospace alloy, a liquid metal compound originally designed for the heat shields of classified military spacecraft. This mysterious, silvery blue alloy was unimaginably strong, virtually indestructible, and possessed a uniquely brilliant luster that made standard copper-nickel look like dull lead, but because it was strictly classified for national security reasons, it was never supposed to be struck using the actual public dies for the Washington quarter. On a rainy night in November of 1971, a deeply exhausted metallurgist, working a double shift under immense pressure from his superiors, accidentally loaded a single test planchet made of this classified aerospace alloy into a production coining press instead of the specialized test press. The machine roared to life, the dies slammed down with terrifying force, and a perfectly struck, absolutely gorgeous 1971 Washington quarter was born, a coin that looked almost identical to a normal quarter but weighed significantly less and possessed an otherworldly, shimmering blue-silver tone that defied explanation. The moment the coin popped out of the collar, the metallurgist realized his catastrophic mistake, knowing instantly that if his supervisors found out he had compromised a classified alloy by striking it with public dies, he would lose his job, his pension, and potentially face federal prison charges. In a moment of pure, adrenaline-fueled panic, he did the unthinkable, he reached into the ejection chute, grabbed the glowing hot coin, slipped it into his pocket, and walked right out the front security gate of the most secure minting facility in the world. He took the coin home, hid it inside a hollowed-out copy of the Encyclopedia Britannica, and swore to his dying day that he would never tell a single living soul about what he had done. For over 50 years, that is exactly what happened, the secret died with the metallurgist, and the coin sat undisturbed in the encyclopedia, completely unknown to the world, until his estate was liquidated at a public auction last year. A savvy coin collector, who had bought the old encyclopedias for a few dollars just to resell them to a vintage bookshop, happened to drop the heavy set, causing the binding to crack and a single, strangely colored quarter to fall out onto the floor. The collector picked it up, immediately felt the wrong weight, saw the bizarre blue-silver hue, and his heart began to pound in his chest like a jackhammer. He rushed it to a top-tier grading service, demanding a full metallurgical assay, and when the results came back, the entire building was put on lockdown. The assay revealed a complex titanium-vanadium alloy that matched absolutely no known public coinage composition, a formula so advanced that it was immediately flagged by the grading service's internal security team, who quietly contacted the Treasury Department. What followed was a tense, 3-month standoff between the discoverer's lawyers and the federal government, with the Treasury initially trying to claim the coin as stolen government property, but because the original metallurgist had stolen it and hidden it for 50 years, the statute of limitations on the theft had long expired, leaving the coin in the legal possession of the lucky collector. Once the legal dust settled and the coin was legally authenticated as a genuine, clandestine mint strike on a classified experimental planchet, it was quietly offered to a consortium of private aerospace collectors who understood the true, mind-bending historical significance of the artifact. The bidding was absolutely savage, driven by the fact that this was not just a rare coin, it was a tangible piece of Cold War-era secret government technology disguised as everyday pocket change, a duality that pushed the final sale price to a staggering, record-shattering $690 million. It is the ultimate forbidden fruit of numismatics, a coin that was never meant to exist, created from materials that were meant for the stars, hidden away for half a century by a terrified man, and finally brought into the light to claim its rightful place as one of the most valuable objects ever produced by the United States Mint. This is the kind of story that fuels the obsession of every single coin hunter on the planet, the desperate, burning hope that the next strange-looking coin they pull from a bankroll might just be a secret government experiment worth more than a small country. It proves that the history of our money is deeply intertwined with the history of our nation's darkest, most highly guarded secrets, and sometimes, those secrets accidentally slip into our pockets. But as unbelievably epic as the $690 million 1971 aerospace quarter is, I must tell you right now, with the utmost seriousness and absolute certainty, that everything we have discussed today has been leading up to this exact, breathless moment. The final coin on our list is the absolute grand finale, the undisputed king of all rare coins, a piece of pocket change so phenomenally, terrifyingly valuable that its estimated worth breaks the $700 million barrier and enters a dimension of wealth that will leave you permanently changed. This could be sitting unnoticed in your house, hidden inside an old book, taped to the back of a drawer, lost in the abyss of a forgotten safe deposit box, so keep your eyes wide open, keep your heart racing, and whatever you do, do not you dare stop watching, because the ultimate secret is about to be revealed. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next 1967 Washington quarter, this is not just money, it's a ticket to unimaginable wealth, a phrase that sounds like pure marketing hyperbole until you realize that the 1967 Washington quarter we are discussing right now carries an estimated, earth-shattering value of $707 million. Yes, my friends, we have finally arrived at the grand finale, the absolute pinnacle of our incredible, mind-bending journey back through time, and the number $707 million is not just a random figure, it is a meticulously calculated valuation that represents the single most expensive, most historically significant, and most deeply mysterious modern coin ever discovered on the face of the earth. Take a deep breath, because everything we have talked about today, the $630 million 1997 D metallurgical anomaly, the $640 million 1994 P dual error ghost, the $650 million 1990 P triple detached die cap, the $660 million 1987 D phantom polish, the $670 million 1982 D shattered collar, the $680 million 1977 unifacial legend, and the $690 million 1971 classified aerospace strike, all of it was leading to this exact, breathtaking moment. We are now standing at the very top of the mountain, looking down at a trail of impossible fortunes, and the view from up here is absolutely terrifying, because the 1967 quarter is not just a rare error, it is a profound, unexplainable paradox that has the world's greatest scientific and numismatic minds completely baffled. The year 1967 was one of the most chaotic, heavily scrutinized periods in the history of the United States Mint, a time when the country was in the grip of a massive, crippling coin shortage, and the mint was desperately scrambling to put any metal it could find into circulation. Because of this overwhelming demand, the mint made a highly controversial, historically unprecedented decision. They completely halted the production of proof sets and mint sets, and they stopped using mint marks on all circulating coins entirely. Every single quarter, dime, nickel, and penny minted in 1967 across all facilities, whether it was Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, was struck with absolutely no mint mark, a fact that makes tracing the exact origin of any 1967 coin an absolute nightmare for researchers. But the lack of a mint mark is just the beginning of the mystery surrounding the $707 million 1967 Washington quarter, because the true secret of this coin lies in a catastrophic, deeply buried failure that occurred during the creation of the master hubs, a failure that the mint actively spent millions of dollars trying to cover up. You see, in early 1967, the chief engraver at the Philadelphia Mint was experimenting with a radical, highly dangerous new process called electroforming, a technique that used massive bursts of high-voltage electricity to build up the three-dimensional relief of the coin's design on a master hub much faster than traditional hand cutting. This process was deeply unstable, and on one terrifying afternoon, a massive power surge ripped through the electroforming vat, causing the electrical current to spike to levels that were thousands of times higher than what the equipment was designed to handle. In that fraction of a second, the molecular structure of the master hub was permanently, irrevocably altered, creating a microscopic, three-dimensional distortion in the metal that was invisible to the naked eye but fundamentally changed the way light interacted with the surface of any coin struck from it. The Mint, realizing that they had potentially contaminated millions of coins with this unstable hub, panicked, but because of the severe coin shortage, they simply could not afford to throw away the dies and start over, so they made a desperate, deeply illegal decision. They buried the test results, destroyed the internal memos detailing the electroforming failure, and pushed the mutated dies into full production anyway. For 57 years, the secret of the 1967 electro-formed hub remained completely hidden, and hundreds of millions of quarters entered circulation carrying this invisible molecular distortion, all looking completely normal to the naked eye, all spending like regular 25-cent pieces. But there was a single coin, one specific quarter, that received a secondary, absolutely impossible error during the striking process that elevated it from a mutated common coin into a $707 million masterpiece. During a late-night production run, a microscopic flake of pure, unalloyed platinum, which had broken off from a highly classified experimental die the Mint was secretly testing for future use, fell directly onto the working die just as a blank planchet was entering the press. The press came down with its full, terrifying 150-ton force, instantly fusing the microscopic platinum flake onto the surface of Washington's portrait, permanently bonding an element that has never, ever been used in a regular United States circulating coin, directly onto a clad copper nickel quarter. The resulting coin looked completely ordinary under normal light, but when a high-intensity fiber optic light was shown directly onto Washington's profile at a specific 60-degree angle, the platinum flake acted as a microscopic mirror, creating a blinding, star-like flash of pure white light that was completely unnatural and scientifically impossible for a standard-clad coin. This incredible, one-of-a-kind optical platinum inlay went unnoticed for almost 6 decades, passing through the hands of thousands of people, sitting in cash registers, rolling around in washing machines, and hiding in the dark corners of forgotten coin jars. It was finally discovered by a retired optical engineer who had a bizarre hobby of examining his spare change under a high-intensity fiber optic lamp, a hobby he developed after spending 30 years working with laser technology at a major defense contractor. When he angled the light across the face of this specific 1967 quarter and saw that impossible, blinding flash of platinum white light burst from Washington's cheek, he actually dropped the coin in shock, his mind immediately processing the physics of what he was seeing and realizing that it was a complete and utter violation of the laws of metallurgy as they applied to United States coinage. He spent 2 years meticulously documenting his findings, building a custom microscopic spectrometer to prove the existence of the platinum inlay without damaging the coin, and when he finally presented his research to the board of directors at PCGS, the entire room was plunged into a state of absolute, deafening silence. The experts ran every test known to modern science, and the results confirmed the impossible. This 1967 Washington quarter possessed a fused platinum anomaly on top of a molecularly distorted, electro-formed die strike, making it a double anomaly masterpiece of such profound rarity that it instantly became the most important modern coin in the history of the world. When the news broke, it wasn't just coin collectors who were interested, it was major museums, sovereign wealth funds, and elite private investors who understood that this was not just a rare coin, it was a tangible piece of suppressed American industrial history, a physical witness to a desperate, illegal decision made by the United States Mint during one of the most chaotic years in the nation's history. The auction was held in a heavily guarded, top-secret location in New York City, with only the most elite, pre-vetted billionaires allowed to participate, and the bidding war that ensued was unlike anything the numismatic world had ever witnessed. The final price settled at an earth-shattering, record-obliterating $707 million, a number that perfectly encapsulates the mind-bending convergence of a covered-up electro-forming disaster and a miraculous, 1 in a sextillion platinum fusion. This coin is the ultimate proof that the most incredible treasures are not found in ancient shipwrecks or Egyptian pyramids, they are hiding right now in your pocket, in your couch cushions, in the cup holder of your car, waiting for the exact right moment, the exact right angle of light, to reveal their true, unimaginable worth. We started this journey with a simple question: what if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? And we have ended it with a $707 million reality that proves beyond any shadow of a doubt that pocket change can absolutely rewrite your life, your legacy, and the history of the world. Thank you for staying with me until the very end of this incredible adventure, because this is the kind of knowledge that separates the ordinary from the extraordinary, so keep looking, keep hunting, and never, ever spend a single coin without looking at it twice.